From the chaos of revolution, one name would rise to define an era, casting a shadow that stretched across all of Europe. This is the story of Napoleon Bonaparte, a man of staggering ambition, military genius, and fatal flaws. His journey from an obscure Corsican officer to the Emperor of France is a tale of power, glory, and ultimate downfall. Born in 1769 on the island of Corsica, Napoleon's early life gave little hint of the heights he would reach. He was an outsider at military school in France, teased for his accent and modest background. But beneath that quiet exterior burned a fierce intelligence and an unyielding will to succeed. The French Revolution provided the perfect crucible for his talents. While France was in turmoil, executing its king and fighting off foreign invaders, Napoleon saw opportunity. His first taste of real fame came at the Siege of Toulon in 1793. With brilliant tactical insight, the young artillery captain devised a plan that recaptured the vital port from Royalist and British forces. He was promoted to brigadier general at just 24 years old. 2 years later in Paris, he cemented his reputation by decisively crushing a royalist uprising with a whiff of grapeshot, saving the revolutionary government. He was no longer just a promising officer. He was a man of action, a savior of the Republic. His star continued to rise with the Italian campaign. As commander of the French army in Italy, he took a poorly supplied, demoralized force and led them to a series of stunning victories against the Austrians. He was a master of speed, surprise, and inspiration. He spoke to his soldiers not as a distant general, but as a fellow comrade, promising them honor, glory, and riches. They adored him and would follow him anywhere. But Napoleon's ambition wasn't confined to Europe. He dreamed of an Eastern empire, leading a massive expedition to Egypt in 1798. While the campaign was a military quagmire, Napoleon's flair for propaganda turned it into a personal triumph back home. He portrayed himself as a bringer of enlightenment, even as his fleet was destroyed by the British under Admiral Nelson at the Battle of the Nile. Seeing the political instability in France, Napoleon abandoned his army in Egypt and raced back to Paris. In 1799, he executed a bold coup d'état, overthrowing the Directory and establishing himself as first consul. The Republic was, in effect, over. Power was now concentrated in his hands. He was a master politician, centralizing government, reforming the economy, and creating the Napoleonic Code, a legal framework that would influence laws across the world for centuries. He brought order and stability after a decade of revolutionary chaos. The French people, weary of bloodshed and uncertainty, largely embraced his rule. In 1804, Napoleon took the final step. In a lavish ceremony at Notre Dame Cathedral, he crowned himself Emperor of the French. In a symbolic act of ultimate authority, he took the crown from the Pope's hands and placed it on his own head. The little Corsican outsider was now the most powerful man in Europe. For the next decade, Napoleon's Grande Armée seemed invincible. He redrew the map of Europe with each victory. At Austerlitz in 1805, his tactical masterpiece, he crushed the combined armies of Russia and Austria. He humbled Prussia at Jena-Auerstedt and dominated the continent through a network of alliances and puppet states. He seemed unstoppable, a true master of war and destiny. But the seeds of his downfall were already being sown. His obsession with defeating Britain led to the Continental System, a continent-wide embargo that crippled European economies and bred widespread resentment. His decision to install his brother on the Spanish throne sparked a brutal, draining guerrilla war known as the Peninsular War, which he called his Spanish ulcer. It tied down hundreds of thousands of his best troops for years. Then came the fatal mistake, the invasion of Russia in 1812. Convinced he could force Tsar Alexander I to submit, Napoleon led the largest European army ever assembled, over 500,000 men, deep into the vast Russian plains. The Russians refused to give a decisive battle, instead retreating and scorching the earth, leaving nothing for the French to live on. Napoleon captured a deserted and burning Moscow, but it was a hollow victory. With winter approaching and his supply lines stretched to breaking point, he was forced into a disastrous retreat. The Russian winter, combined with constant Cossack attacks and starvation, annihilated the Grande Armée. Of the more than 500,000 men who invaded, fewer than 30,000 made it back. It was a catastrophe of unimaginable scale. The myth of Napoleon's invincibility was shattered. Seizing the opportunity, the nations of Europe, Russia, Prussia, Austria, Sweden, and Britain formed a new coalition against him. Despite flashes of his old brilliance, Napoleon, with an army of raw recruits, was overwhelmed. At the massive Battle of Leipzig in 1813, the Battle of the Nations, he was decisively defeated. The Allies invaded France, and in April 1814, with Paris captured, Napoleon Bonaparte was forced to abdicate. He was exiled to the small Mediterranean island of Elba. The world thought the Napoleonic era was over. But Napoleon had one last act to play. Less than a year later, he escaped from Elba, landed in France, and began a march to Paris. The troops sent to arrest him instead flocked to his banner, chanting Vive l'Empereur. He reclaimed his throne without firing a single shot, beginning the period known as the 100 Days. The Allies, stunned, quickly mobilized. The final showdown came on June 18, 1815, on a rain-soaked field in modern-day Belgium, the Battle of Waterloo. It was a brutal, close-run affair. For hours, Napoleon's forces hammered the British and Allied lines under the Duke of Wellington. But Wellington's army held firm, just long enough for the Prussian army to arrive and smash into Napoleon's flank. The French army broke and fled. The dream was over for good. This time, there would be no second chances. Napoleon was exiled to the remote, windswept island of St. Helena in the middle of the South Atlantic, thousands of miles from anywhere. He spent his final 6 years there, a prisoner of the British, dictating his memoirs and crafting his own legend before dying in 1821 at the age of 51. Napoleon Bonaparte's legacy is as complex and vast as his ambition. Was he a tyrant who bled Europe dry for his own glory, responsible for millions of deaths? Or was he a visionary leader who modernized France, spread revolutionary ideals of liberty and equality, and laid the foundations for modern Europe? The truth is, he was all of these things. A brilliant general, a gifted administrator, and an insatiable egoist. His story remains one of history's most compelling epics, a dramatic testament to the heights one individual can reach, and the devastating consequences of ambition without limits. Thank you for watching. If you found this journey through history fascinating, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next documentary. We'd love to hear your thoughts on Napoleon in the comments below.